Welcome back to the Big Block Factory. Today we've got a pretty cool car in here. This belongs to Matt and Dave Rogan from Rogan Industries. It is a 1986 Camaro. So Dave bought this car when it was 1 year old. The car's actually very low kilometres. It's got about 35,000 Ks on it in total. So that's pretty low for a car of this age. As you can see, it's not quite factory spec 86 Camaro. It's had a few minor mods done to it over the years. Basically, when Dave bought it in, it was left-hand drive, 1 year old. So he had it converted, had a TPI 350 from factory, so tune port injection, had the old Delco ECU like old Commodores had in them. Ran it around for a little while. I think he said the water pump leaked, so he then pulled it apart and, of course, started heavily modifying it, as you do. Any excuse. It had a couple of aftermarket ECUs fitted to it over the years, both of which ended in tragedy, dead engines, melted bits, stuff that did used to happen back in the EFI days, in the early days, back in the 90s and early 2000s before, well, it's probably not even the ECU's fault, it's more the tuning. There was not much knowledge on EFI back then, and wrecked a fair few engines. So at some point, after more engine wreckage, Dave and Matt decided that a 565 cubic inch big block was probably a good idea to stick into the car. So they bought a crate engine from Patterson Performance in the States. This is still the engine. It's I don't think it's even been apart, but it made 1,000 horsepower on engine dyno. Currently makes about 750 at the hubs through Turbo 400, and it's got carburetors, which is kind of cool. They're very nice carburetors, but they're not really our cup of tea, of course. But that's not what this is about right now. We're going to have a good look over the car. We've got Matt here. If you've been watching the show for a little while, you probably would have seen Matt before. He's our diff builder, chassis guy extraordinaire, does all the stuff that we don't know how to do. Probably the easiest thing for us is probably just to ask you some questions about this thing, because there's a lot going on in this engine bay.
Yep.
I guess the giant lump in the middle is probably the first thing we need to know about.
Yep.
I did mention it makes 1,000 horsepower NA on an engine dyno, which is pretty bloody stout, but can you fill us in on any of the other intricacies of this engine?
Yeah, so we contacted Todd Patterson at Patterson Elite, basically about building a tough big block. We really didn't have a plan. We just wanted something cool and noisy and, made good power. And this is kind of what we ended up with, So dart block, AFR heads that had another program put through them, and sheet metal tunnel ram, carburetors, lots of shiny bits. It's been a good thing. It was never built to be a race engine, but it does it. It holds its own.
So back in the day when it was a street car,
yeah,
you did take it down to quarter. How'd you go with that?
Yeah, so the first time we had it as a street car, we built air cleaners in the scoop. It had heated demisters, it had everything, and it had full exhaust. And we were like, let's see how fast it will go. So we did that, and it went like 10:30, but it went 144 mile an hour. So we were like, this is probably going to go all right. And that was kind of the bug for turning it into a purpose-built, probably not purpose-built, but just sole drag car.
So at the time the chassis was all standard?
Yeah, and to be honest, there isn't too much outside of the standard chassis. I put some bracing in it, obviously put a roll cage in it, parachute, put some stiffeners in a few things, and then we ended up rebuilding the rear end at another stage when we wanted to chase some more adjustment. The configuration of the car is still mostly standard. Obviously, if you were building a race car from the start, you'd do things differently, but that's usually not how they go, and that's exactly how this has gone. It was always a street car, and then we turned it into a race car. So yeah. So you got a nice cage there, and obviously the cage looks like it comes right through into the bay here. Yeah. Through the towers and everything. That's Yeah, so I built the sort of strut braces before it ever had a cage, and I left them poking through there if we ever needed to. It could tie into that, which it does now. So they have a problem with these. They never typically had a coilover strut, but you can convert them to that, which puts all the spring weight on this tower, which they are prone to having an issue there.
So it's got a pretty serious sort of setup here for the front struts with some camber adjustment on it.
Yeah.
by the look of it.
Yep. Yeah, you can adjust all that sort of stuff. Not that we ever really did once it's set. Yeah, we eventually changed the strut to a different brand to get some more adjustment when we started doing some racing.
So do you always race this on radial or?
Yeah, it's always been on a radial tyre. Obviously, it's a small tyre car just because you can't fit a big tyre on it. It was never designed to have a big tyre on it. So you could put a slick on it. I would be keen to do it and have a play with that. But for the moment, it's just a radial car. Yeah.
Okay. So in its current form, how quick has it gone?
In the quarter, it's gone an 8.98 at 151 mile an hour. And that was a long time before we changed some other stuff. And since then, in the 8th mile, it's gone 564. In comparison to when it went to 8.98, it went 572. So it's actually picked up quite a lot in the 8th. So on a quarter, I mean, it could run an 880 potentially if all the stars lined up.
So you're the driver, right?
Yep.
Yep. Sweet.
Yep.
We can get Matt to drive our car because scared.
I'm not scared. Well, not now.
You
anyway.
will be. All right, let's have a look underneath. I can remember this thing when you were putting it together in the garage and how it was fairly. To me at the time, I was like, "Holy shit, that's just so full on."
Yeah,
building tunnels for the exhaust and everything.
Yeah, and like all that stuff I made, we weren't chasing horsepower. In hindsight, now everything could be bigger, better, more flow. You know, we were just making stuff fit. But
Yep. You're trying to make it have this big engine and big pipes, but also not have them dragging on.
exactly,
the ground and
yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah. And we wanted to run a full exhaust. We didn't want to just have collectors poking here. So, yeah, the exhaust is very intricate. It doesn't need to be, but it was the only way to get a full exhaust out of them.
Cool. Let's have a look. Righto, Matt, let's have a look underneath here.
Let's do it.
There's some cool stuff going on. What do we got? So we got some underside of engine things here. We got external oil pumps, not dry sump. It's just external pump, is that right?
Yep. So it's still a wet sump with an external pump and obviously a vacuum pump off the back of the.
So that's all built into the same drive
Yep.
system.
Yep. You
So-
can do other things with those pumps. You can run oil. You can run
a fuel
off
pump
them
off them,
as
yeah.
well. Yeah. Yep. And then what else we got going on? Triggers and
Aftermarket.
yeah, that's a chromoly K-frame that you can buy for this model car.
But
Obviously not for right-hand drive.
This
but,
steering
so-
rack is it looks awfully familiar to me. That's
Yep, that is a Tirana steering rack.
same as what's in the Crown, but with a pretty interesting setup on it. I've never seen this done before, but it makes sense.
Yeah, so basically that, when I put it in the car, we had a lot of bump steer because of the geometry and all those theories.
All those things that are really annoying.
Yeah.
So this was a steering box car, right?
Yeah, factory
Box
they
and
had
linkage?
steering box, even left-hand drive, they were still a steering box car. And then when they converted them to right-hand drive, they used like a HQ steering box.
Yeah.
And they just never really worked very well at all. So the plan was to convert it to rack and pinion, and we did that. Had a lot of bump steer issues. Before we ever had it going, you could jack it up and down and the wheels would be moving in and out. So then we basically worked out, well, Dad did, he worked out with some poly pipe and some brackets and some cardboard how to fix it.
Cardboard aided design, nice.
So,
So
yeah,
basically, you're using the same point. That would be where that inner tie rod end would bolt to the track rod.
yeah,
The drag link.
drag link, yeah.
So you're maintaining the original.
That's right, yeah. Trying to get everything to work in the same arc basically was the plan, or is the plan.
So engine plated.
Yep, engine plate
I was just-
to pick up some room.
I was just talking to Matt about some odd things on here that I've never seen before. It's got these Heim joint link here that goes up to the block, and as Matt explained to me, that's because the engine plate can stop rotation, but it can't. It's actually a bit like forward and aft, like the engine will move back and forward under torque loading and stuff. So you've got to have these what did you call them? Limiters?
Yeah, basically engine travel limiters. Kind of similar to what you put in a front strut to stop travel limit, but we're doing it to stop the engine going backwards and forwards. It's really important on an engine plated car, especially something that you're racing. On a street car, not so much, but because you're nearly always keeping the rubber mount on the gearbox or some kind of movement back there.
Yep.
So there is the room for it to do that, and they will do it.
And it will bend the engine plate.
It'll bend the engine plate. You'll have trouble throwing belts off. It's just, yeah. Especially like...
Don't you already have trouble throwing belts off?
No, the last time we raced it, we didn't, so success.
So what's the trans here? Turbo
400, yep. Transbraked. Pretty basic, nothing
setup.
overly crazy, just a factory style case with a carbon fibre scatter shield under it, over a blanket. Converter, at the moment we went back to like a pretty basic 10-inch converter. It's all Coan stuff from America, and we'll probably go down the path of having another converter built for it. We had a converter in the car, it was way too loose, so we tightened it up.
This would be fairly loose too, wouldn't it?
No, it's not really. No, it's definitely tightened it up, which is good, what we wanted to do. It's too tight, but now we have some data to go off to get back to them.
Headers? Obviously of your design?
Yeah, headers were, at the time, I built the headers before we had this engine, which is a stock, dummy block. And we just went 2-inch. We're like, that's fine. We're not chasing max horsepower. We just want to get the things out of the car. Now we're chasing max horsepower, so there could be a revisit to this when I have time. I think there would be, we're just discussing, there would be power in changing the pipes. They're quite small for a 565
2-inch
cubic
primary
inch.
it's pretty big, but not for a big block.
No, you could step that up. You could step this up. They're very limited with room. I was explaining to Al, the factory exhaust all comes over here and goes out here. So,
All right, so there's some interesting stuff in the back here that's kind of GM. What is this? A body?
F body.
F body.
Yeah.
So this is a GM specific sort of setup. It's a, what do they call it? A torque arm.
Torque arm, yep.
So that rather than having top control arms on a four-link, it's actually got this sort of a ladder bar, really, isn't it? That runs right forward, and sometimes they join onto the transmission housing, and in this case, Matt's got sort of custom-made stuff here that joins it to the cross member, which is doing the same job. So it's very specific to this car, but it does work quite well, doesn't it?
They were never designed for drag racing. They were designed off the circuit racing days, keeping the car really flat and stable. We have made it work in the drag racing sense, but there's definitely improvements to be made in it, especially by shortening the torque arm, which is basically what they're doing in America now to make them hook, and to give rear end separation. Just when it's so long, it's quite lazy. It doesn't do a whole lot.
Okay, so it takes long to react.
Yeah, it's quite slow to react. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously we've got a 9-inch here because I know how much you love 9 inches.
Yep.
What would it have in it? Some sort of 10
10
bolt or
bolt,
something
yeah,
originally?
yeah, which they have a cast bracket on the housing that mounted the torque arm to.
Yep.
Same with the gearbox, it had a casting on the extension housing where the factory torque arm would have gone.
So factory pickup point for the bottom control arm.
Yep.
But everything else is pretty much custom.
Yep.
We've got the thing that I can never remember the name of, triangulated.
Yeah, just a track locator.
Track locator,
Yep.
that's it. And just some strange
double adjustable shocks. They've been in it since we first ever built it. Well, converted to coilover. They're nothing too flash. They do the job.
and the all-important
Anti-roll bar.
which I should have put in my crown, but I didn't.
Anti-roll bar is one of those things you don't necessarily need it. They definitely work.
Until you need it.
Yeah, but they work. They do a really nice job of keeping the car.
See, you've got a long-range fuel tank in here. It's basically the size of your average surge tank.
Yep.
What's the story behind that?
Again, when it was a street car, I had a big tank in here. When we went racing with it, we were like, we need to save some weight. So we cut that down. We cut the exhaust off. We cut all the stuff out that you no longer need and threw that in the bin. It's just, all the hours and hours and hours of me making all this stuff to just remake it again.
Yeah, nice.
But yeah, it's all just about weight, and obviously the fuel we're running is quite expensive, so we didn't want to have to put like 40 litres of fuel in there to have the pickup covered. So we thought, should make the tank smaller, put less fuel in.
Nice. So it's all working well at the moment?
The last time we tested was really good. It was probably the most positive the car's ever gone. We don't use it all that much either, so it's not like you're out testing every weekend.
Yeah.
You're putting hundreds of laps on the thing, like we race it twice a year. So
I guess perhaps that brings us to maybe a future episode for the car.
possibly, yeah. We could do something with it.
We know how much Dave loves his carbies, but Matt is new school, so we're going to toss those $4,000 carburetors in the bin, maybe in the scrap, and look at some EFI options for this thing. You know, it's really fun actually getting an older engine and putting modern technology on it, such as fuel injection, and see how it reacts to it and where there's gains. And it's probably not going to be a top end gain, it's just going to be usability and more, I guess, maybe even traction management from electronic throttles. So that's going to be in a future episode. We're not sure exactly when it's going to happen. Matt's going to do a bit of it, we're going to do a bit of it, and we'll keep you updated. Got some really cool stuff that we've never done before on an engine that will make for some good tuning episodes as well. So we'll obviously be seeing Kai after it's all on there, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And Dave's going to love it because he doesn't have to bring his screwdriver to the track anymore, just his laptop. Thanks for showing us the car, Matt.
Yeah, no worries, guys, anytime.
Top quality work as always, and a good performer as well. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
We need to come up with a shirt for the Camaro. Well, what do you reckon? One with the carbies in the bin, and then
Yeah,
Dave,
totally.
Dave in the background waving his fist. Old man yells at cloud.
In the background with tears coming down.
Real tears.
Tears.
Come on, maybe you can put them hanging up in your shed as a memory, Dave. What about that?
Expensive shed element.
I've got more things hanging.
What's your favourite? What's your most sentimental memory about the car?
Probably when Matt was little and it was still left-hand drive, and he'd be in the booster seat, in the seat which would normally be the driver's seat. See? And one side we're in Brisbane and I'm taking off doing a skid, and you put the window down, and the people next door look over and think, shit, thinking Matt was driving. That would be probably one of the most memorable things.
Can you remember that, Matt?
Can't remember it, but I can get you a photo of me hanging out of the window of it when I was like 5.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there's a photo of that, yeah. I ain't getting pulled up in RBTs and speeding when it's left-hand driving. Coppers didn't even know. They didn't care.
Different story these days.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, hang on. The rules are different anyway. You don't need to have it. You can still drive left-hook cars.
If
That's
you
right.
bought this car in
Yeah.
now, you wouldn't need to change
You wouldn't
it.
need to change it over.
Yeah.
It's an age thing.
And you know what IROC stands for?
Oh, what's IROC?
International Race of Champions.
Ah, okay.
That's what they used to have in America. So they would have, say, 30 or 40 or 50 of those cars, all same spec. And they would get Paul Newmans and all those sort of people to come and drive them. And that's
that like Daytona and stuff like.
yeah, there was an IROC series. And it was the International Race of Champions.
No wonder no one questioned when you got pulled over, Dad, because you were a rock star. Look at this guy's a champion.
Woody,
Yo.
you need to get a shot of.
That's what they were spec'd up, those cars. They're 140 mile an hour speedos, four-wheel disc brakes.
Tuned port injection.
Yeah.
Is that where we add the Haltech badge
It was
underneath?
meant to be.